You're watching A News. I'm Bakhtiar Sanov, and let's see the top stories. Iran announces a 40-day mourning after state media confirmed Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei's demise. Iran's President Masoud Pezeshkian vows revenge after Ali Khamenei's death. And UN Security Council convenes for an emergency session in the aftermath of the crisis in Iran. Iran's armed forces said they struck Israel with ballistic missiles and attacked U.S. military assets in the region with missiles and planes in an escalation of tit for tat on the second day of war following killing of Supreme Leader and a number of senior military officials.
Iran's Revolutionary Guards, as well as the army, said Sunday they attacked military bases and infrastructure facilities in Israel, as well as U.S. assets in the region, while the Army Air Force announced it raided U.S. bases in the Persian Gulf states. The news of Iran's retaliatory military attacks on the second day of the Israel-U.S. war came as the government declared 40 days of national mourning after Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei and a number of high-ranking military and security officials were confirmed killed on Saturday. On the diplomatic front, Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi called for the United Nations to carry out its obligations, urging the world body to strongly condemn the Israel-U.S. invasion of Iran in the middle of nuclear negotiations. In a letter to the UN Secretary General and President of Security Council, he emphasized that Iran reserves its inherent and legitimate right to self-defense under Article 51 of the UN Charter in response to the aggression. Secretary of Supreme National Security Council Ali Larijani also announced that the Provisional Leadership Council met on Sunday to regulate the process of electing the next leader in compliance with the Constitution. And following the killing of IRGC Commander General Mohammad Khakpour, it was announced today that his first deputy and the elite forces acting commander, Ahmad Vahidi, was replacing him. Turaj Shiralilu, Tehran, for A News.
Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian released a statement on Sunday, read out on state media, vowing revenge for killing of Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khamenei in airstrikes by Israel and the United States. Iran considers it its duty and legitimate right to seek justice and revenge against those responsible for this historic crime, he said, adding that Tehran would use all its capabilities to do so. The United States and Israel launched strikes on Saturday, opening a new chapter of conflict in the Middle East. President Donald Trump said the operation aimed to eliminate a security threat to the United States and give Iranians a chance to change their leadership. For more than 3 decades, Ali Khamenei has shaped Iran's political system at home and abroad. From disputed elections and nationwide protests to nuclear negotiations and regional confrontations, his leadership has defined a critical era for the Islamic Republic, leaving Iran deeply divided over his legacy.
For more than 3 decades, Ali Khamenei has stood at the center of Iran's political system, shaping both domestic policy and regional strategy. He rose to prominence during the 1979 revolution and became president in 1981 after the assassination of Mohammad Ali Rajai. Serving 2 terms during the Iran-Iraq War, he navigated internal political rivalries, including differences with then Prime Minister Mir Hossein Mousavi. In 1989, following the death of Ruhollah Khomeini, the Assembly of Experts appointed Khamenei as supreme leader. Constitutional amendments enabled his elevation despite his relatively lower clerical rank. As supreme leader, he holds ultimate authority over the armed forces, judiciary and key state institutions, consolidating power in a highly centralized system. His rule has faced major challenges. In 2009, disputed election results sparked mass protests. Khamenei backed the official outcome and supported a security crackdown, deepening political divisions. On foreign policy, he has maintained deep distrust toward the West while permitting negotiations when aligned with Iran's interests. This approach shaped the 2015 nuclear deal and his caution about US guarantees. After Washington withdrew from the agreement in 2018, Iran scaled back some commitments while continuing uranium enrichment. Regional tensions escalated in 2020 after the US killed Iranian commander Qasem Soleimani in Iraq. Khamenei ordered retaliation and led funeral prayers, turning the moment into a symbol of regional confrontation. In 2022, nationwide protests erupted after the death of Gina Mahsa Amini in morality police custody, drawing international criticism and highlighting domestic discontent. Under Khamenei, Iran has expanded its regional alliances across Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, and Yemen, often described as the axis of resistance. During the 12-day Iran-Israel confrontation in June 2025, he took a hardline stance, framing Iran's response as part of its broader resistance strategy, even as debate grew at home over the economic and diplomatic costs. Public opinion inside Iran is deeply divided. Supporters view Khamenei as the defender of the Islamic Republic and national sovereignty, while critics associate his long rule with economic pressure and strict political and social policies.
US President Donald Trump has warned Iran against launching retaliatory strikes on the United States or Israel. Posting on Truth Social, President Donald Trump said Iran had signaled plans to strike very hard and warned that any attack would be met with a force that has never been seen before. His comments came after Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps vowed to target US bases and Israel following the death of Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei. Despite calls from the international community for de-escalation, more strikes have hit the Iranian capital in the last few hours. Rockets have hit the northern and eastern parts of the capital with plumes of smoke rising above the skyline. Iran's airspace continues to be closed. So far, the Iranian Red Crescent has reported 201 deaths and 747 injuries from the attacks. Iranian ballistic missiles have struck central Tel Aviv, lighting up the night sky despite Israel's air defense systems. Maria Balde reports from Tel Aviv.
Iranian ballistic missiles hit central Tel Aviv amid an ongoing Iran-Israel conflict, lighting up the night sky with explosions despite Israeli air defense. At least one woman has been killed and multiple others injured as Israeli forces nationwide emergency measures and shelters fell under repeated sirens. Israeli media are celebrating the death of Ayatollah Khamenei and other figures in his government in an attack that was allegedly moved forward after Israeli intelligence confirmed that the Iranian leader was holding a meeting with his top officials. Iranian state television confirms that Ayatollah Khamenei's advisors and IRGC commander were also killed in Tehran. They also report on the particular danger posed by the missiles Iran is sending. They point out that they are Chinese-made and of great tonnage. Even if the Iron Dome intercepted them, they break apart in the sky and many fragments still end up getting through. Under the state of emergency, the streets of Israel remain empty of people.
The United Nations Security Council has convened an emergency session as military confrontation between the United States, Israel and Iran intensifies, raising fears of a broader regional conflict. Diplomatic efforts appear stalled, accusations are mounting on all sides, and global powers are sharply divided over both the legality and the consequences of the strikes.
An emergency session of the United Nations Security Council exposed stark divisions as tensions between the United States, Israel, and Iran escalated sharply. Secretary General Antonio Guterres warned that continued military action risks triggering a wider and uncontrollable regional conflict, urging an immediate ceasefire and a return to negotiations.
We are witnessing a grave threat to international peace and security. Military action carries the risk of igniting a chain of events that no one can control in the most volatile region of the world. Let me be clear. There is no viable alternative to the peaceful settlement of international disputes. Military action is expanding rapidly across the region, creating an increasingly volatile and unpredictable situation and heightening the risk of miscalculation. Preparations have been made for technical talks in Vienna next week, followed by a new round of political talks. I deeply regret that this opportunity of diplomacy has been squandered. The region and the world need a way out now. I call for de-escalation and an immediate cessation of hostilities. The alternative is a potential wider conflict with grave consequences for civilians and regional stability.
Washington and Tel Aviv defended their strikes as lawful and necessary to counter what they described as an existential nuclear threat.
The most fundamental duty of any sovereign government is the protection of its people. Operation Epic Fury is directed towards specific and strategic objectives: to dismantle missile capabilities that threaten allies, to degrade naval assets used to destabilize international waters, and to disrupt the machinery that arms proxy militias, and to ensure the Iranian regime never, ever can threaten the world with a nuclear weapon.
We all know when the real escalation began. It began when the Iranian regime armed proxies across the region, when it expanded missiles and drones, when it advanced its nuclear program in violation of all its commitments, and when it brutally slaughtered its own people.
Meanwhile, Tehran condemned the attacks as aggression and war crimes, accusing both of breaching the UN Charter.
In addition to the numerous civilian and residential buildings, the aggressors have also targeted a school in the city of Minab, Hormozgan province, killing more than 100 children. The number of innocent civilians continues to rise. This is not only an act of aggression, it is a war crime and a crime against humanity. The United States and Israel war today is not merely a war against Iran. It is a war against the Charter of the United Nations, a war against international law, and a war against the international legal order upon which the United Nations and the Security Council have been built for over 8 decades.
With retaliatory attacks reported across the region and diplomacy faltering, the Council session highlighted a fast-moving and volatile crisis, one carrying growing risks not only for the Middle East, but for global stability.
Following the United States and Israel's preemptive strike on Iran, the Middle Eastern country has since retaliated against Israel and U.S. military bases in the region. Here is a roundup of the strikes that took place on the first day.
The United States and Israel launched a military operation against Iran on Saturday, targeting Iranian missile systems and naval assets. The operation, codenamed Roaring Lion by Israel and Operation Epic Fury by the United States, was described by Israeli authorities as a preemptive strike aimed at neutralizing what they called imminent threats. Military sites were hit across the country, including naval facilities in Kanarak in southern Iran. Iranian state media reported that the compound of Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei in Tehran was struck. Iranian authorities later confirmed his death following the attack. State media also reported a strike on a girls' school in Minab, in the south of the country. Iranian officials said at least 108 people were killed in that incident. In response, Iran launched retaliatory strikes against Israel and US military bases in the region. Explosions were reported in Israel, Qatar, Bahrain, Kuwait, and the United Arab Emirates. In the UAE, Dubai International Airport and the Burj Al Arab Hotel sustained damage, with authorities confirming at least one fatality. Israel declared a state of emergency after multiple explosions were reported in the skies over northern and central areas, including around Tel Aviv and Haifa. Qatar's defense ministry said it intercepted successive waves of 65 ballistic missiles and 12 drones, though 2 ballistic missiles struck Al Udeid airbase and 1 drone hit an early warning radar installation. No fatalities were reported there. Jordan, which borders Israel, said its armed forces shot down 2 ballistic missiles that were heading toward its territory. Airlines suspended flights across parts of the Middle East on Saturday, including routes to and from Dubai and Abu Dhabi. The United States and Israel last exchanged direct attacks with Iran in June of last year, triggering a conflict that lasted 12 days.
To unpack these fast-moving developments, I'm joined by Faramarz Farboud, instructor of political science at Moravian University in Pennsylvania, and Daniela Mello, political scientist based in Boston. Mr. Farboud and Daniela, thank you for joining us at this critical moment.
Thank you for having us.
So, Mr. Farboud, let's start with you. How unprecedented is the killing of Iran's supreme leader in terms of international norms and escalation dynamics?
Of course, it's an absolute violation of any conception of international rule-based order that we can imagine. You're not supposed to do that. And especially condemnatory is that it, once again, happened during negotiations. In this case, negotiations, once again, used as let's say, deceptive means to lull the other side into the kind of disaster that I think we are witnessing.
Daniela, does Khamenei's death fundamentally alter Iran's political system, or does the clerical structure ensure continuity?
Well, so far, there's continuity, meaning the regime was well established, well consolidated, had institutional mechanisms in place to put a provisional government in place, or provisional leadership in place, I should say, and to allow the Assembly of Experts to have time to work on the selection of the next supreme leader. So at least on paper and in practice right now, the regime is still standing. So the decapitation of the regime through an attack to Ali Khamenei has a huge psychological impact, I'd say, both within the country, obviously, but also for the Americans and for the Israelis. I mean, the idea that Ali Khamenei could simply disappear from the map on the first day of this attack is a psychological win. It's a morale win for the Americans and for the Israelis, and it certainly has created a great level of insecurity and uncertainty amongst the elites in Iran. But to go from here to say that we are now already witnessing a regime change, I wouldn't say so. It is too early for us to dictate that the regime is gone. And clearly the regime is trying to show that it's going to continue to fight back, and it's trying to signal as much as possible to the Iranian people that the institutions are still in place, that the constitution is still in place, and thus that the theocratic regime in Iran is not yet defeated. So the next few days, of course, will tell us more about whether or not this regime is able to keep stability in the streets of Iran. Something that the American president has been very openly calling for is for the Iranian people to rise up against its own regime when the regime is weakened. It's to be seen whether or not we see the Iranians perceive that opportunity in the same terms that the Americans seem to see it, and whether or not the regime will be able to withhold pressures from both the outside and the inside. But as of now, the regime stands.
Mm-hmm. So, Mr. Farboud, what message is Iran sending by threatening the Strait of Hormuz, and how realistic is a full closure?
Well, Iran is limited in terms of its options, and it obviously sees its action in terms of self-defense, not offense. And of course, attacking, regionalizing, let's say, the war is one of its options, because obviously Trump administration and American investor class has a lot of investment in the region, and it could be viewed as an indirect attack on the U.S., including attacking its bases in the region, and also, of course, Israel. But closing the Hormuz is risky because obviously Iran also depends on the flow of oil from that region. And if it leads to attacks on infrastructures that are related to oil, then Iran will also suffer. So from my perspective, I think Iran is going to move more carefully when it comes to Hormuz in the future and now than, let's say, it would with attacks on U.S. bases and also U.S. territories used by U.S. in the region by its Arab allies.
Daniela, Israel's defense minister Israel Katz called the killing of Iran's supreme leader a turning point. It's a turning point toward what? A deterrence or regional war?
Well, a turning point is in the eye of the beholder, obviously. The decision of Israel and the United States to launch this joint attack at a point when Iran was under such immense internal stress, economic stress, and a weakened position regionally as well, because so many of its proxies and allies in the region have been heavily defeated, thinking about Hamas and Hezbollah and the Assad regime. So clearly, both Israel and the United States saw an opportunity here. And this is primarily a war of opportunity, an opportunity that they thought might not come around again for generations. And they made the decision to engage in preemptive war, which, as was stated earlier, is clearly not within the framework of international law. It violates international law, but that's the justification that the Americans and the Israelis are giving. Now, the elimination of Ali Khamenei is greatly symbolic as of now. It's a symbol and a signal to the publics at home that this might be a winnable conflict, and that if anything else fails, that a strong signal has been sent to the Iranians that Israel and the United States are quite serious about regime change in the country and wanting to basically remove Iran as a threat within the region. So this is a deeply consequential decision geographically, regionally, because as we see, the Iranian Revolutionary Guards are striking back, and they're striking back also on sites that they should not be striking back at, sites with civilians. So both are accusing each other of violating international law at this point, though it's obvious who the aggressor in the situation truly was. Yet, in its defensive and offensive capacities, Iran seems to be laying the ground for regional conflict as well. And regional conflict obviously does not favor, and it's not the favored path for anyone in the region, certainly not for the Saudis, for the Israelis, for the Turks, and it's clear that the Revolutionary Guards are also playing that card in an attempt to persuade the Americans and the Israelis to cease hostilities sooner rather than later.
Mr. Farbod, could attacks on U.S. diplomatic facilities abroad force Washington into deeper military involvement?
Obviously, it could. But I'm not sure if Iran has made that decision to go in that direction. I think the decision has been made at least to inflict some damage on American troops with the hope that American people would reconsider and perhaps, put a lot of pressure on Trump administration to move away from the path of war. I do want to make one more comment, if I may, about the previous conversation we had. I don't think it is sufficient for us to discuss what Israel and the United States have begun a war with Iran just in terms of violation of international law. According to the prosecutorial team of the United States in 1947, after the end of World War II, United States basically made it into a norm in the Nuremberg Tribunal that wars of aggression, when you commit it, is, quote, the supreme international crime. Aggression, quote, again, differing only from other war crimes in that it contains within itself the accumulated evil of the whole. Now, that's the core evil, if you wish to put it in that in those words of international rules-based order. So, I mean, that is what we are actually witnessing.
Farmers for Board, Daniela Melo, thank you both for your insights and for joining us during this fast-moving and deeply consequential moment. We truly appreciate your time and expertise. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thanks for the invite.
Thank you. Now let's take a closer look at the key stories shaping the region. Azerbaijan has become a key transit route for foreign nationals leaving Iran as regional tensions remain high. Evacuees describe a tense and uncertain situation as diplomatic missions coordinated their departures. The evacuation, they said, was fully arranged by the embassy, with transport and border transit coordinated in advance, allowing staff to cross safely into Azerbaijan.
New evacuation arrangements are continuing through the Asra border crossing as foreign nationals leave Iran via Azerbaijan amid ongoing regional tensions involving Israel, Iran and the United States. The latest developments include large-scale coordinated departures. Azerbaijani authorities have approved permits for around 500 Russian citizens to cross from Iran, while the first group of Chinese nationals has already reached the Astara checkpoint and is expected to continue onward to Baku.
We are working in Emirate Embassy, so there have some situation no everywhere. So we think it's maybe more critical, more problem. So we come with the embassy, ambassador and all embassy staff, diplomat. So we are come with them. So their situation is, when we are there, we say had some blasting somewhere, but we don't know too much about.
There is a state of war in the region. People are anxious. Everyone is trying to get to shelters. Those who can leave are trying to leave the country. The traffic was very heavy. It took us 2 days to get here. The Azerbaijani officials here helped us. Azerbaijan feels like my homeland.
We are citizens of Tajikistan. Due to the recent events in Iran, we crossed the border because of the war in Tehran. We were there as a group of doctors undergoing training. Because of the outbreak of war in Iran, we had to leave the Islamic Republic of Iran and cross through the border into Azerbaijan. We are very grateful for the warm welcome we received.
According to Serbian President Aleksandar Vučić, Serbia has also begun evacuating its diplomatic personnel through Azerbaijan after embassy premises in Tehran were damaged by debris from nearby strikes. At the crossing itself, the movement involves a mix of diplomatic staff and civilians, including personnel from Saudi Arabia and Qatar, along with nationals from Italy, Tajikistan, Bangladesh, Pakistan, and a resident of Turkey. Border authorities say crossings are being organized through direct coordination with embassies, with foreign nationals required to obtain special authorization codes before approaching the checkpoint. Additional arrivals are expected as evacuation efforts continue to expand. This is Gülçin Hocalayeva with Nijat Kasımov for A News.
The impact of the escalating confrontation with Iran is being felt far beyond the immediate strike zones. As reports confirm the death of Iran's supreme leader, neighboring countries are grappling with the fallout, including increased cross-border movements and a tightened security at key transit points. Ali Sultan Sultanzadeh reports from Turkey's frontier with Iran.
Headlines confirmed the death of Iran's supreme leader Ali Khamenei. This is Turkey's eastern edge, the Kapıköy border crossing with Iran. Behind me, foreign nationals are crossing out of Iran through this gate, but we were informed that the gate has been closed by now. Land crossings like this usually remain open, even as tensions in the region escalate. With airspace disrupted and flights limited, this route has become one of the few ways out. Foreign nationals are using Turkey as a transit route, moving onward to safer destinations. And what's happening here reflects something larger. The United States and Israel carried out strikes inside Iran, after which Iranian officials, including senior figures and members of the leadership circle, were reported dead. Iran has since responded with retaliatory actions. Iran's President Masoud Pezeshkian says Tehran sees revenge as its legitimate right and duty in response to the attacks. Well, A News is on the ground across the region, covering developments from multiple angles, from Israel to Azerbaijan's border crossings and here in Turkey. Ali Sultan Sultanzada, Javed Aliyev, A News.
At least 9 protesters have been killed outside the U.S. consulate in Pakistan's largest city, Karachi, after protesters gathered to object to the killing of Iran's supreme leader, Ali Khamenei. Tear gas was fired at protesters by Pakistani police on Sunday as they gathered on the streets in central Karachi. The U.S. consulate was damaged and it appears a vehicle was set alight underneath a bridge. That's the news for this hour. Stay tuned to A News for more updates. Thank you for watching.